The desperate message, 2,000 words. The vast emptiness of space was pierced by a lone ship, its hull scared and smoking as it limped through the darkness. Inside, Commander Zix Era of the Nilari Resistance fought to keep conscious, her three-fingered hands trembling as they danced across the control panel. The ship shuddered, another system failing as it pushed beyond its limits. Zixera's large, multifaceted eyes reflected the emergency lights that bathed the cockpit in an eerie red glow. She knew she was going to die. The Galactic Empire's forces had ambushed her team, destroying their hidden base and scattering the survivors. As the last high-ranking member of the Resistance in this sector, Zix Era had a final desperate mission. Earth, the forbidden planet, home to a species quarantined by the Empire centuries ago for reasons lost to time. Humanity was their last hope. As her ship approached the edges of the Sol system, alarms blared. Imperial ships had followed her. With the last of her strength, Zix Era activated the distress beacon and recorded a message. Her voice, translated by the ship's computer into a universal language, was weak but determined. People of Earth, I come seeking your aid. The galaxy suffers under the tyranny of the Empire. You are our last hope. Please, help us. The message sent, Zix Era closed her eyes. The sound of Imperial weapons fire was the last thing she heard. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stared at the computer screen, her coffee long forgotten and growing cold beside her. The radio telescope array she managed in chill had picked up something extraordinary. An artificial signal from deep space, aimed directly at Earth. This can't be right, she muttered, running the data through another series of checks. But each time, the result was the same. This was no natural phenomenon, no pulsar or quasar emission. This was a message. With trembling fingers, Alina reached for her phone. Within hours, observatories and space agencies around the world were confirming her findings. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. The message itself was brief, but its implications were staggering. An alien, clinging to represent a galactic resistance, begging for Earth's help against an oppressive empire. It sounded like the plot of a science fiction movie, not reality. As news of the message spread, the world erupted into chaos and excitement. Social media exploded with theories and reactions. Religious leaders called emergency meetings to discuss the theological implications. Governments scrambled to form strategies and responses. In Washington, D.C., President Amelia Chen sat in the Situation Room, surrounded by her top advisors and military officials. The atmosphere was tense, a mix of excitement and apprehension. "What do we know about the source of the message?" Chen asked, her voice calm despite the gravity of the situation. General Marcus Stone, a grizzled veteran, with more salt than pepper in his hair, cleared his throat. "The signal originated from just outside our solar system, Madam President. We detected a small craft, heavily damaged. It's no longer transmitting. We believe it was destroyed shortly after sending the message." A murmur ran through the room. Chen's eyes narrowed. "Destroyed by whom?" "We're not sure," Stone admitted, "but we detected larger objects in the vicinity. They disappeared before we could get a clear reading." Dr. Yusuf Ali, the president's science advisor, spoke up. "Madam President, the technology required to send this message, to travel interstellar distances, it's far beyond our current capabilities. If this is real, and I believe it is, we're dealing with civilizations potentially thousands of years more advanced than us." Chen nodded, taking in the information. "And the message itself. This talk of empires and resistance. It's concerning," said Secretary of State Lisa Wang. "If true, it suggests a galaxy in conflict. And now, we've been dragged into it." "Not necessarily," Chen countered. "The message was a request for help, not a demand. We still have a choice to make." She looked around the room, meeting each person's eyes. "The question is, what do we do? Do we respond? Do we ignore it? And if we do respond, how?" The room erupted in debate. Some argued for caution, suggesting that Earth should focus on its own defense in case of invasion. Others pushed for immediate response, seeing an opportunity to catapult humanity into a larger galactic community. As the arguments flew back and forth, Chen remained silent, listening. Finally, she held up a hand, and the room fell quiet. "We can't make this decision alone," she said. "This affects all of humanity. I'm calling for an emergency session of the UN General Assembly. We need global consensus on this." The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. As governments around the world prepared for the unprecedented UN session, scientists worked tirelessly to analyze every scrap of data from the alien transmission. Military forces worldwide were put on high alert, watching the skies for any sign of approach. In New York, the UN building buzzed with an energy it had never known before. Representatives from every nation on Earth gathered, setting aside old rivalries in the face of this new cosmic challenge. The debate was long and heated. Some nations pushed for immediate response, eager to make first contact. Others urged caution, fearful of drawing the attention of the mentioned empire. A few even suggested the whole thing might be an elaborate hoax or the prelude to an invasion. As the arguments raged, Dr. Elena Rodriguez found herself called to speak. Standing before the assembly, she felt the weight of history on her shoulders. "Distinguished representatives," she began, her voice shaky at first, but growing stronger. "I understand the fear, the uncertainty. We're facing something unprecedented in human history, but we must not let fear dictate our actions." She took a deep breath. This message, this plea for help, it's not just a challenge. It's an opportunity. An opportunity to prove that humanity is ready to take its place among the stars, to show that our capacity for compassion extends beyond our own world. Elena's words seemed to resonate with many in the assembly. The mood began to shift. Old dreams of space exploration, of reaching out to touch the cosmos, were rekindled. In the end, after days of debate, a resolution was passed. Earth would respond to the message. A carefully worded reply would be broadcast, expressing willingness to communicate further and potentially offer assistance. As humanity prepared to take its first, tentative steps onto the galactic stage, none could predict the incredible journey that lay ahead. The stars, once distant and unreachable, now seemed to beckon. And somewhere out there, the embers of a resistance burned, waiting for the spark that Earth's response might provide. But even as hope blossomed, questions remained. Was humanity truly ready for this leap? And what dangers lurked in the depths of space, waiting to test Earth's resolve? Only time would tell. But one thing was certain. The course of human history had been irrevocably changed. The adventure was just beginning. Humanity's decision. 2,000 words. The United Nations General Assembly Hall buzzed with a nervous energy as world leaders gathered for what many were calling the most important meeting in human history. The decision to respond to the alien distress call had been made. But now came the hard part. Determining exactly how humanity would step onto the galactic stage. President Amelia Chen of the United States took the podium, her normally composed demeanor betraying a hint of the weight she carried. "Distinguished colleagues," she began, her voice echoing through the hushed chamber, "we stand at a crossroads unlike any our species has faced before. Our response to this plea for help will define us not just as individual nations, but as a planet, as humanity itself." As Chen spoke, screens around the hall displayed the latest data from Earth's hastily upgraded deep space monitoring systems. Grainy images showed what appeared to be the remnants of the alien ship that had sent the message, now nothing more than debris scattered across the void. More worryingly, long-range scans had detected anomalous energy signatures at the edge of the solar system, possible evidence of cloaked vessels watching Earth. "We must act," Chen continued, "but we must act wisely. This is not a decision for any one nation to make alone. We need a unified Earth, presenting a single face to the galaxy." The proposal was ambitious. A coalition force, drawing resources and personnel from nations across the globe. It would be called the Earth Defense Fleet, tasked not only with protecting the planet, but with reaching out to the stars to make contact with the alien resistance and assess the true nature of the galactic conflict. Debate raged for days. Some nations balked at the idea of pooling military resources. Others argued over command structure and funding. But as reports trickled in of strange sightings at the edges of Earth's atmosphere, a sense of urgency grew. Humanity needed to be prepared, both for defense and for the possibility of joining a larger galactic community. In a secure facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Elena Rodriguez worked tirelessly with an international team of scientists and engineers. Their task was monumental: adapt humanity's existing space technology for potential interstellar travel and combat. "We're working off scraps here," Elena muttered, poring over the scant data gleaned from the alien transmission. "Their tech is centuries beyond ours. It's like trying to upgrade a steamboat to match a nuclear submarine." Her colleague, Dr. Yuki Tanaka, looked up from a holographic display of prototype engine designs. "Maybe that's our advantage," she said thoughtfully. "They won't expect what we come up with." Sometimes old tech, used creatively, can surprise even the most advanced opponents. As the scientists worked, military leaders from around the world gathered to plan strategy. General Marcus Stone found himself in heated discussions with counterparts from China, Russia, India, and dozens of other nations. Old rivalries and suspicions had to be set aside in the face of this new cosmic challenge. "We need to think beyond traditional warfare," argued Colonel Qiang of the Chinese People's Liberation Army. "Space combat will be nothing like what we've experienced on Earth." Stone nodded grimly. "Agreed. We're looking at engagements potentially lasting hours or even days, fought across distances we can barely comprehend. Our tactics, our training, everything needs to be rethought." As the military planned and the scientists innovated, a third group worked tirelessly behind the scenes. Diplomats and linguists, led by Secretary of State Lisa Wong, crafted humanity's first official message to the stars. It needed to convey Earth's willingness to help while also establishing clear boundaries and seeking more information. After countless revisions and debates, the message was finalized. "To the galactic resistance and all free peoples of the stars, we, the United Nations of Earth, hear your call. We stand ready to aid in your struggle against oppression, but we must proceed with caution. Our civilization is young in the ways of interstellar travel and conflict. We seek to learn more about the situation in the galaxy and how we might best assist. Please, tell us your story and let us find a way forward together." The message was broadcast using Earth's most powerful transmitters, aimed at the coordinates where the original distress call had originated. Now, humanity could only wait and hope for a response. Weeks passed. The world held its breath, oscillating between hope and fear. Strange lights were reported in skies across the globe, fueling speculation and panic. Governments worked to maintain order while pouring resources into the fledgling Earth defense fleet. Then, on a quiet Tuesday morning, it happened. A new signal, unmistakably alien in origin, reached Earth. Dr. Rodriguez, who had been catching a rare few hours of sleep, was jolted awake by urgent alerts. She raced to her lab, heart pounding. The message was longer this time, and accompanied by vast amounts of data: star charts, technical schematics, historical records. As translation software worked to decode the alien language, the scope of the galactic conflict became clear. The Galactic Empire, it seemed, had ruled for millennia, slowly tightening its grip on countless worlds. What had begun as a confederation for mutual protection and trade had, over time, twisted into a totalitarian regime. Countless species had been subjugated, their resources plundered to fuel the empire's endless expansion. The Resistance, a loose coalition of rebel groups from various worlds, had been fighting a losing battle for generations. Earth, isolated and unknown to the Empire, represented a wild card, a potential ally untainted by generations of imperial rule. As the full message was decoded, Alina felt a chill run down her spine. The alien resistance wasn't just asking for help. They were warning Earth. The Empire, alerted to humanity's existence by the energy signatures of the response transmission, had already dispatched a fleet to investigate this newly discovered world. "They're coming," Elena whispered, the implications sinking in. Ready or not, they're coming. The news spread like wildfire. Emergency sessions were called in governments around the world. The Earth Defense Fleet, still in its infancy, was mobilized. Civilians alternated between panic and a strange, grim determination. In Washington, President Chen addressed an anxious nation and world. "My fellow citizens of Earth," she began, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "We have received a response from the stars, and with it, a warning. An alien force, one that seeks to dominate and oppress, is now aware of our existence. They are coming." She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. "But we will not cower in fear. We will not submit to tyranny, be it from Earth or the farthest reaches of space. Humanity has faced existential threats before, and we have always persevered. We will do so again." Chen's words rallied the planet. The bickering and debates that had hampered the formation of the Earth Defense Fleet faded away, replaced by a unified sense of purpose. Resources poured in from every corner of the globe. Volunteers lined up to join the hastily assembled space forces. In orbit, the first ships of the Earth Defense Fleet took shape. They were a hodgepodge of designs, combining the best technology humanity could muster with insights gleaned from the alien data. Fusion drives, reverse-engineered from the schematics provided by the Resistance, promised to propel humanity to the stars faster than anyone had dreamed possible. Dr. Rodriguez found herself appointed as the chief scientific advisor to the fleet. As she toured the flagship, a massive vessel christened the EDS Hope, she marveled at how far they'd come in so short a time. But would it be enough? "We're as ready as we can be," General Stone said, joining her on the observation deck. The Earth hung below them, a blue marble suspended in the void. "But we're heading into the unknown. We don't just face a technological gap, but a gap in experience. These Empire folks have been fighting wars among the stars for longer than our civilization has existed." Elena nodded, her expression determined. "Then we'll have to surprise them. Humanity's greatest strength has always been our adaptability, our creativity in the face of overwhelming odds. We'll find a way. We have to." As final preparations were made, a message arrived from the Resistance. A rendezvous point had been set, deep in a nebula, at the edge of Empire-controlled space. There, humanity would meet its alien allies and truly join the fight for galactic freedom. The day of departure came. Millions watched, via screens and with the naked eye, as the Earth Defense Fleet rose from orbital shipyards. Hundreds of ships, from agile fighters to massive carriers, assembled in formation. At the center, the EDS Hope stood ready to lead humanity's first journey to the stars. On the bridge of the Hope, Admiral Kira Yamamoto looked out at her fleet, then back at the Earth growing smaller behind them. The weight of history, of an entire species' hopes and fears, rested on her shoulders. She took a deep breath, then gave the order that would change the course of human history forever. "All ships, prepare for faster-than-light jump. Our destination, the stars. Our mission, freedom. For Earth and for all sentient beings in the galaxy. Godspeed and good hunting." In a flash of light that outshone the sun, the Earth Defense Fleet vanished into the depths of space. Humanity had taken its first, bold step into a larger, more dangerous universe. The greatest adventure in the history of the species had begun. But as the cheers of triumph echoed across the Earth, questions lingered. Would humanity's fledgling fleet be enough to turn the tide against an interstellar empire? What allies and enemies awaited them among the stars? And how would this cosmic conflict change humanity itself? The answers lay waiting, somewhere in the vast, unknown reaches of the galaxy. Into the unknown, 2,000 words. The vast expanse of space stretched out before the Earth Defense Fleet, an endless canvas of stars and nebulae. On the bridge of the EDS Hope, Admiral Kira Yamamoto stood motionless, her eyes fixed on the main view screen. The ship had just dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Crimson Nebula, the rendezvous point set by their alien allies. "Status report," Yamamoto ordered, her voice calm despite the tension that hung in the air. "All ships accounted for." "Admiral," her XO, Commander John Chen, replied. "No signs of Imperial presence in the system, but no sign of the Resistance either." Dr. Elena Rodriguez, standing nearby, frowned. "Could we have missed them? The nebula's interfering with our long-range scans." Before anyone could respond, a flash of light erupted from within the swirling crimson gases. A ship emerged, unlike anything humans had ever seen. It was organic in shape, more like a living creature than a vessel, its hull shimmering with an iridescent glow. "Incoming transmission," the communications officer announced, her voice tinged with awe. A holographic image flickered to life in the center of the bridge. The being that appeared was vaguely humanoid, but with blue-green skin, large, multifaceted eyes, and what looked like gills fluttering on its neck. "Greetings, humans of Earth," the alien spoke, its words translated by the ship's computers. "I am Captain Zalthran of the Free Worlds Alliance. Welcome to the fight for galactic freedom." Admiral Yamamoto stepped forward, squaring her shoulders. "Captain Zalthran, I am Admiral Kira Yamamoto of the Earth Defense Fleet. We come in response to your call for aid." Zalthran's expression, as far as the humans could interpret it, seemed to soften. "And we are grateful for your response, Admiral. But I'm afraid pleasantries must wait. We've detected an Imperial patrol heading this way. We need to move now." Yamamoto nodded sharply. "Understood. Lead the way, Captain." What followed was a tense chase through the nebula. The Earth fleet, guided by Zalthran's ship, navigated through swirling gases and hidden asteroid fields. Imperial ships, sleek and predatory, darted in and out of sensor range, hunting for their prey. Dr. Rodriguez worked feverishly at her console, analyzing the Imperial ship's capabilities. "Their tech it's incredible," she muttered. "But there are patterns here, weaknesses we might be able to exploit." As they emerged from the nebula, a new sight greeted them. A massive space station, hidden in the shadow of a gas giant. It was a patchwork construction, clearly built and expanded over time from ships and structures of various origins. "Welcome," Zalthran's voice came over the comms, "to Haven, the heart of the Resistance." The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. As the Earth fleet docked with Haven, humans had their first true interactions with a multitude of alien species. The station was a melting pot of cultures and technologies, all united in their opposition to the Empire. Admiral Yamamoto and her top officers attended strategy meetings with the Alliance leadership. The full scope of the galactic conflict became clear, and it was daunting. The Empire controlled vast swaths of the galaxy, with seemingly limitless resources at its disposal. So why haven't they crushed the Resistance already? Commander Chen asked during one briefing. A holographic map of the galaxy flickered before them. A reptilian alien, Admiral Salk of the Draconian Remnant, gestured with a clawed hand. "The Empire's reach is vast, but not infinite. They're spread thin, trying to control too much territory. It gives us room to maneuver, to strike and fade away. Hit-and-run tactics." General Stone nodded approvingly. "Guerrilla warfare on a galactic scale." Meanwhile, Dr. Rodriguez and her team were like kids in a candy store. The technological marvels of Haven were beyond their wildest dreams. Faster-than-light communications, energy shields that could withstand the heat of a sun, weapons that could shatter planets. But it was in the medical bay that Elena found something truly revolutionary. An avian alien scientist named Krila was demonstrating a device that could regrow limbs and cure diseases thought incurable on Earth. This could change everything. Elena breathed, her mind racing with the implications, not just for the war, but for all of humanity. Kreela trilled softly, a sound Alina's translator rendered as amusement. Your species' curiosity is refreshing, Dr. Rodriguez. So many in the galaxy have grown complacent, even in the face of imperial oppression. Perhaps your Earth perspective is exactly what this fight needs. Not everyone was as welcoming, however. As humans integrated into the daily life of Haven, tensions arose. Some Alliance members were wary of the newcomers, doubtful of what such a young species could contribute to the fight. These doubts came to a head during a heated debate in the Alliance Council chamber. A hulking, silicon-based being called Grok rumbled its displeasure. These humans are children playing at war. They'll be a liability in battle, not an asset. Admiral Yamamoto, her patience wearing thin after days of similar comments, stood to address the council. With all due respect, she began, her voice cold as steel. Humanity has been fighting wars since before your ancestors crawled out of whatever silicon pit spawned them. A hush fell over the chamber. Yamamoto continued, her words carrying across the stunned silence. We may be new to the stars, but we are not new to conflict. What we lack in technology, we make up for in determination and adaptability. Underestimate us at your peril. Her words seemed to shift the mood. Zalthran, presiding over the council, nodded slowly. The Admiral speaks truth. The Empire will underestimate the humans, just as some here have. And that will be their downfall. As if to punctuate his words, alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. A breathless officer burst into the chamber. Imperial fleet incoming. They found us. Chaos erupted as the station mobilized for battle. On the bridge of the EDS Hope, now reconnected with Haven, Admiral Yamamoto barked orders. All hands to battle stations. Fighters, prepare for launch. The space around Haven erupted into a furious firefight. Imperial dreadnoughts, massive vessels bristling with weaponry, exchanged fire with Alliance cruisers. Swarms of fighters darted between the larger ships, explosions blooming in the void like deadly flowers. Humanity's first true taste of interstellar combat was a baptism by fire. Earth pilots, trained in atmospheric flight, had to adapt quickly to the three-dimensional nature of space combat. But adapt they did, their unconventional tactics catching Imperial pilots off guard. Dr. Rodriguez, monitoring the battle from Haven's control center, noticed something odd. The Imperial ships, they're not using their full capabilities. It's like they're holding back. Zalthran, coordinating the defense nearby, chittered in agreement. You're right. This isn't their full strength. It's a probing attack, testing our defenses. As the battle raged on, a new threat emerged. Imperial boarding pods, launched from a cloaked ship, slammed into Haven's outer hull. They're trying to take the station. Someone shouted. General Stone's voice crackled over the comms. Not if we have anything to say about it. Marines, prepare for close quarters combat. What followed was a desperate struggle through Haven's corridors. Human Marines fought alongside alien allies, repelling the Imperial borders inch by bloody inch. The fighting was brutal, with neither side willing to give ground. In one particularly fierce firefight, a young Earth Marine named Sarah Chen found herself cut off from her squad. Pinned down by Imperial fire, she was certain her time had come. But then a massive form appeared beside her. Grok, the same being who had doubted humanity's worth in the council. You fight well, small one, Grok grumbled, hefting what looked like a miniature artillery piece. Perhaps I was hasty in my judgment. Together, the unlikely pair turned the tide, driving the Imperials back. As the last of the boarders were repelled and the Imperial fleet retreated, a new sense of camaraderie filled Haven. Humans and aliens alike had pulled together, fought together, and survived together. In the aftermath, as damage reports came in and casualties were tallied, Admiral Yamamoto met with the Alliance leadership. This was just the beginning, she said gravely. The Empire knows we're here now. They'll be back, and in greater numbers. Zalthran nodded, his multifaceted eyes gleaming with a mix of worry and determination. Indeed, but thanks to Earth's aid, we're stronger than we've ever been. For the first time in centuries, we have a real chance to turn the tide. As repairs began and plans were made for the battles to come, Dr. Rodriguez found herself staring out a viewport at the star-filled expanse. The galaxy, once so distant and theoretical, was now a battlefield, filled with wonders and terrors beyond imagination. "Penny for your thoughts, Doc," General Stone asked, joining her. Elena smiled wryly, just thinking about how much has changed. A few months ago, our biggest worry was climate change. Now we're fighting a war against a galactic empire. Stone chuckled, though there was little humor in it. "Welcome to the big leagues, kid. But you know what? I wouldn't bet against us. Humanity's got a knack for beating the odds." As if to emphasize his point, a group of human and alien engineers walked by, deep in discussion about integrating Earth technology with Alliance systems. Ideas were flowing freely, each species bringing their unique perspective to bear on shared problems. Elena nodded, feeling a spark of hope kindle in her chest. "You're right. We've taken our first steps into a larger universe. It's terrifying, but it's also incredible. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together, not just as humanity, but as part of something greater." The battle for Haven was over, but the war for the galaxy had only just begun. As the Earth Defense Fleet and their new allies prepared for the challenges ahead, one thing was certain: the arrival of humanity had changed the equation. The Empire's days of unchallenged rule were numbered. The stars, once silent and distant, now echoed with the sounds of conflict and cooperation. And somewhere out there, the Empire was mustering its forces, preparing to crush this upstart resistance once and for all. The next battle would make the fight for Haven look like a mere skirmish. But for now, in this brief moment of respite, humans and aliens alike allowed themselves to hope. The future was uncertain, but they would face it united. The turning tide, 2,000 words. Months had passed since the Battle of Haven, and the galaxy was ablaze with conflict. The Earth Defense Fleet, now fully integrated with the Free Worlds Alliance, had been engaged in a series of hit-and-run attacks against Imperial outposts and supply lines. These guerrilla tactics, combined with humanity's unconventional strategies, were beginning to take their toll on the Empire's operations. On the bridge of the EDS Hope, Admiral Yamamoto studied a holographic map of the sector. Red markers indicating Imperial strongholds were interspersed with blue Alliance-controlled areas. "We're making progress," she mused, "but it's not enough. We need a decisive victory, something to rally more worlds to our cause." Her XO, Commander Chen, nodded grimly. "Intel reports the Empire is constructing a new type of battle station in the Cerberus system. If it comes online, it could tip the balance back in their favor." Yamamoto's eyes narrowed. "Then we don't let that happen. Assemble the War Council. It's time we took the fight to them." In Haven's Central Command, leaders from a dozen species gathered to plan their most ambitious operation yet. Dr. Rodriguez, now head of a joint human-alien research team, presented their latest findings. "The Imperial Battle Station is powered by a new type of quantum reactor," she explained, bringing up schematics on the main screen. "It's incredibly powerful, but also unstable. If we can trigger a cascade failure in the reactor core, the entire station will be destroyed." Grok, the silicon being who had become an unlikely friend to humanity, rumbled thoughtfully. "A sound plan, but the station will be heavily guarded. How do we get close enough?" It was General Stone who provided the answer. "We use Earth's oldest trick in the book, the Trojan horse." The plan was audacious, borderline insane. The Alliance would allow a small fleet, including the EDS Hope, to be captured by Imperial forces. Once inside the battle station's defenses, they would deploy a strike team to sabotage the reactor while the fleet created a diversion. As preparations were made, tension hung heavy in the air. Everyone knew the stakes. Success could turn the tide of the war, but failure would cripple the Alliance's forces and morale. The night before the mission, Dr. Rodriguez found herself in Haven's observation dome, staring out at the stars. She was joined by Creela, the avian scientist who had become both colleague and friend. "Nervous about tomorrow?" Creela asked, her feathers ruffling slightly. Elena nodded. "It's not just the danger. If we succeed, we'll be responsible for thousands of deaths. Imperial lives, yes, but still." Creela's expression softened. "Your species' capacity for empathy, even towards your enemies, is remarkable. But remember, every life we take tomorrow is in service of saving countless more from Imperial oppression." As the two friends talked, similar scenes played out across Haven and the fleet. Soldiers said goodbye to loved ones, engineers double-checked equipment, and leaders steeled themselves for the challenges ahead. The next day, Operation Trojan Horse was launched. A small Alliance fleet, led by the EDS Hope, allowed itself to be ambushed by Imperial forces in a seemingly routine skirmish. As planned, they put up token resistance before surrendering. Aboard the Hope, Admiral Yamamoto watched stoically as Imperial tractor beams pulled them towards the massive battle station. "All hands, prepare for boarding," she announced over the ship's comms. "Remember your training. May fortune favor the bold." The next few hours were a masterclass in deception. The Alliance personnel played the part of defeated prisoners perfectly, all while covertly preparing for action. Imperial guards, arrogant in their perceived victory, failed to notice the tension humming just beneath the surface. As the Imperial commander gloated over his prize captives, Yamamoto gave the signal. In an instant, the facade dropped. Alliance soldiers overpowered their guards, while engineers hijacked control systems. "All units, execute Phase 2, Yamamoto ordered. Across the battle station, carefully planted explosives detonated, throwing the Imperial forces into chaos. In the confusion, a strike team led by General Stone and Grok fought their way towards the reactor core. Meanwhile, the Alliance fleet sprang into action. Ships that had appeared crippled suddenly came to life, catching the Imperial defenders off guard. Fighters poured from launch bays, engaging in furious dogfights around the station. Dr. Rodriguez, coordinating from a makeshift command center on the Hope, monitored the battle with growing concern. "The Imperial reinforcements are arriving faster than we anticipated," she reported. "We're running out of time." In the depths of the station, Stone's team finally reached the reactor core. They were battered and bloodied, having fought through waves of Imperial troops. "All right, folks, let's make this count," Stone growled, setting to work on the reactor controls. But it wasn't going to be that easy. The reactor was protected by failsafes they hadn't anticipated. As alarms blared and more Imperial troops converged on their position, it seemed like the mission might fail at the final hurdle. It was Grok who provided the solution. "The failsafes are too complex to bypass quickly," the silicon being rumbled. "But I can interface directly with the reactor. Channel its energy through my body to trigger the overload." Stone's eyes widened as he realized what Grok was suggesting. "That's suicide. The energy would tear you apart." Grok's crystalline features shifted in what might have been a smile. "Perhaps, but my people are hardy. There's a chance I might survive. It is a risk I am willing to take for the sake of the galaxy." Before anyone could argue, Grok had made its decision. The beam plugged itself into the reactor, its body glowing with impossible energies. "It has been an honor fighting alongside you, humans," Grok said, its voice trained. "Now go. Complete the mission." With heavy hearts, Stone and his team retreated, fighting their way back to the Hope. Behind them, the reactor core pulsed with growing instability, Grok's form barely visible within the maelstrom of energy. As the Alliance fleet disengaged, pulling back from the doomed station, a massive explosion lit up space. The Imperial battle station, their superweapon, was no more. In the aftermath of the battle, As casualty reports came in and damage was assessed, a somber mood fell over the Alliance forces. They had won a great victory, but at a terrible cost. Admiral Yamamoto addressed the fleet, her voice carrying to every ship and station. Today, we struck a decisive blow against the Empire. But let us not forget the price of this victory. To Grok, and to all who gave their lives, we owe a debt that can never be repaid. Their sacrifice will not be in vain. As the Alliance regrouped at a hidden base, news of their victory spread across the galaxy. Worlds that had been hesitant to oppose the Empire now saw hope. Rebellions sparked on a dozen planets, the oppressed finding new courage in the Alliance's success. In a quiet moment amidst the post-battle chaos, Dr. Rodriguez found herself again in the company of Krila. The avian scientist's usual cheerful demeanor was subdued. "I've been thinking about what you said before the mission," Krila said softly. "About the weight of the lives we take. I think I understand now why your people struggle with it so. It is a heavy burden, but perhaps it is that very weight that keeps us righteous." Elena nodded, feeling a complex mix of emotions: pride in their accomplishment, grief for the lost, and a growing resolve for the challenges yet to come. "We've proven we can stand against the Empire," she said, "but this is just the beginning. They'll strike back, harder than ever." As if in answer to her words, an urgent message came through from Alliance intelligence. The Empire, reeling from the loss of their battle station, had decided to make an example of a world that had recently declared for the Alliance. They were mobilizing a massive fleet, intent on reducing the planet to ash. Admiral Yamamoto wasted no time. "All ships, prepare for immediate departure," she ordered. "We have innocent lives to save." As the Alliance fleet made ready to jump into yet another battle, there was a palpable shift in the air. They were no longer just resistors, hiding in the shadows. They had become a force to be reckoned with, champions of freedom in a galaxy crying out for change. The Empire had awakened a sleeping giant in humanity, and now, united with the free peoples of the galaxy, that giant was beginning to roar. The tide of war was turning, but the greatest battles were yet to come. As the fleet jumped to light speed, Dr. Rodriguez found herself thinking of Earth, so distant now. She wondered what changes their actions here, among the stars, would bring to their home. For better or worse, humanity's destiny was now irrevocably linked with the fate of the galaxy. The next battle awaited, and with it, the chance to save countless lives and strike another blow against tyranny. Whatever the cost, whatever the danger, they would meet it head-on. For Earth, for their alien allies, and for the promise of a free galaxy, they would fight on. The stars streaked by outside the viewport, carrying them towards their destiny. The war for the galaxy's soul raged on, and humanity was right at the heart of it. Fall of the Empire. The Alliance fleet dropped out of hyperspace into a scene of chaos. The Empire's punitive force had already begun its assault on the planet Novaris, a verdant world whose only crime was daring to side with the Alliance. Imperial ships rained fire from orbit, while ground forces pushed towards the planet's major cities. Admiral Yamamoto's voice rang out across the Allied comm channels. "All ships, engage the enemy. Cruisers, focus fire on their capital ships. Fighters, run interference and protect our troop transports. Let's show these Imperial bastards what happens when you threaten innocent lives." The space above Novaris erupted into a furious battle. Alliance ships, though outnumbered, fought with a ferocity that caught the Imperials off guard. Human pilots, their skills honed by months of combat, danced between enemy fighters, while alien allies brought to bear technologies the Empire had never encountered. On the bridge of the EDS Hope, Admiral Yamamoto coordinated the assault. "Dr. Rodriguez, what's the status of our new weapon?" Elena, her face illuminated by the glow of her console, looked up. "The quantum disruptor is ready, Admiral, but we only have one shot. We need to make it count." The quantum disruptor was the fruit of human and alien collaboration, a weapon that could, in theory, disable an entire enemy fleet by disrupting their quantum communications. It was untested in battle, a desperate gamble. As the fight raged on, it became clear that despite their valor, the Alliance was slowly being pushed back. The Imperial forces were simply too numerous, too well-equipped. "Admiral," Commander Chen reported, his voice tense, "our lines are breaking. We can't hold them much longer." Yamamoto's eyes narrowed. "Then it's time. Target their command ship with the quantum disruptor. All other ships, prepare to exploit any weakness." Dr. Rodriguez initiated the weapon's firing sequence, her heart pounding. This was the moment of truth, the culmination of months of work, and the hopes of billions resting on its success. A pulse of energy, invisible to the naked eye, but registering as a blinding flare on sensors, erupted from the hope. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, like dominoes falling, Imperial ships began to lose power. Their coordinated attack crumbled into chaos. "It worked," Elena exclaimed, barely able to believe her eyes. "Their quantum networks are collapsing." Yamamoto didn't waste a second. "All ships, press the attack. Don't let them regroup." What followed was a rout. The Alliance forces, emboldened by their sudden advantage, tore into the disorganized Imperial fleet. On the planet's surface, the invasion forces, cut off from orbital support and command, found themselves outmaneuvered by the determined Novarian defenders and Alliance ground troops. As the last Imperial ships fled or surrendered, a cheer went up across the Allied fleet. They had done it. They had saved Novaris and dealt the Empire a crushing defeat. But there was no time to rest on their laurels. In the aftermath of the battle, as aid was rushed to the planet below, the Alliance leadership convened an emergency meeting. "This victory has given us an unprecedented opportunity," Zalthran announced, his multifaceted eyes gleaming with excitement. "Our spies report that the Empire is in disarray. The Emperor has retreated to his throne world, Imperius Prime. If we strike now, we could end this war once and for all." The council chamber erupted into debate. It was a risky proposition. Imperius Prime was the most heavily defended world in the galaxy. But the alternative was to give the Empire time to recover, to potentially develop countermeasures to the quantum disruptor. In the end, the decision was made. The Alliance would gamble everything on one final decisive battle. Preparations were made with feverish intensity. Every ship, every soldier, every scrap of resources the Alliance could muster was directed towards this ultimate goal. Dr. Rodriguez and her team worked around the clock, refining the quantum disruptor and developing new technologies to pierce the formidable defenses of Imperius Prime. The night before the assault was set to begin, Elena found herself unable to sleep. She wandered the corridors of Haven, eventually finding her way to the memorial that had been erected to honor the fallen, including Grok. As she stood there, lost in thought, she was joined by General Stone. "Quite a thing, isn't it?" Stone said quietly, gazing at the memorial. "All these beings from across the galaxy, united in a common cause." Elena nodded. "I never imagined, when we first received that distress call, that it would lead to this, that humanity would find itself at the center of a galactic war." Stone placed a hand on her shoulder. "Whatever happens tomorrow, Doc, know that you've done your people proud. Hell, you've done the whole damn galaxy proud." As dawn broke, at least by Haven's artificial day cycle, the largest fleet ever assembled by the Alliance jumped towards Imperius Prime. It was a sight to behold. Ships of every size and design, crewed by beings from 100 worlds, all united in their quest for freedom. They emerged from hyperspace into hell. The space around Imperius Prime was a forest of defense platforms, minefields, and enemy ships. At the center of it all loomed the Imperial Palace, a structure the size of a small moon, bristling with weaponry. "So much for the element of surprise," Yamamoto muttered. Then, louder, "All ships, battle formation. You know your targets. For freedom." The battle that followed would be remembered for centuries as one of the largest and most brutal in galactic history. Alliance ships clashed with Imperial defenders in a desperate struggle. Fighters dueled among the debris of destroyed vessels, while capital ships exchanged broadsides that could shatter planets. On the surface of Imperius Prime, drop pods pierced the atmosphere, carrying Allied ground forces. General Stone led the charge, fighting street by street towards the Imperial Palace. The fighting was bitter, every inch gained paid for in blood. Aboard the Hope, Dr. Rodriguez coordinated the deployment of their new weapons, including localized versions of the quantum disruptor. But the Imperials had learned from their previous defeat. Their most critical systems now shielded against quantum interference. Hours passed, the battle hanging on a knife's edge. The Alliance had the advantage of surprise and determination, but the Empire had the home field advantage and seemingly endless reserves. Just when it seemed the attack might falter, a new signal appeared on the Alliance comms. Ships were emerging from hyperspace, but they weren't Imperial reinforcements. They were ships from worlds that had been neutral, now joining the fight against the Empire. "Looks like your victory at Nova is paid off," Commander Chen said, a note of hope in his voice. With renewed vigor, the Alliance pressed their attack. Slowly but surely, they pushed towards the Imperial Palace. General Stone's forces, battered but unbroken, finally breached the outer defenses. In the palace's throne room, Emperor Melloc raged at his subordinates. "How have you allowed this rabble to come so far? I want them destroyed, every last one." But his words rang hollow. As reports of Alliance advances poured in, the Emperor's composure cracked. For the first time in his long reign, Melloc felt fear. The final push was a blur of desperation and heroism. Alliance forces fought their way to the very heart of Imperial power. General Stone, his armor scared and his weapons running low on power, confronted Emperor Melloc in his opulent throne room. "Surrender," Stone growled. "It's over." Melloc sneered, drawing an ornate energy sword. "I am Emperor of 1,000,000 worlds. I do not surrender to insects." What followed was a duel for the ages, broadcast across the galaxy on hijacked Imperial channels. Stone, representing not just humanity, but all the oppressed peoples of the galaxy, against Melloc, the living embodiment of Imperial tyranny. In the end, it wasn't even close. Melloc, for all his bluster, was no match for a battle-hardened veteran like Stone. The Emperor fell, his own sword turned against him. As news of Melloc's defeat spread, the remaining Imperial forces began to surrender. Across the galaxy, oppressed worlds rose up, throwing off the shackles of Imperial rule. In the days that followed, as the dust of battle settled, the enormity of what had been accomplished began to sink in. The Galactic Empire, which had stood for millennia, had fallen. A new era of freedom and cooperation was dawning. On Haven, now transformed into a center of galactic diplomacy, representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered to form a new government. It would be a true federation, with all species given equal voice and equal rights. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, watching the proceedings, felt a sense of awe. "We did it," she said softly. "We actually did it." Admiral Yamamoto, standing beside her, nodded. "We did. But our work is far from over. Building a lasting peace will be just as challenging as winning the war." As if to emphasize her point, debates were already breaking out among the gathered representatives. Old grudges and new ambitions threatened to undermine the fragile alliance. But there was hope too. Humanity, so recently unknown to the galactic community, was being looked to for leadership. Their unique perspective, their adaptability, and their fierce commitment to freedom had played a crucial role in the Empire's defeat. As the conference continued, plans were already being made. Expeditions to unexplored regions of space, grand projects to heal worlds scarred by Imperial exploitation, cultural exchanges to bring the diverse peoples of the galaxy closer together. The war was over, but the adventure was just beginning. Humanity had taken its place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as liberators, and peacemakers. The galaxy, vast and wondrous, lay open before them. As night fell on Haven, Alina found herself once again in the observation dome, gazing out at the stars. But this time, she wasn't alone. Humans and aliens alike stood with her, united in their shared triumph and their shared hope for the future. The distress call that had started it all seemed like a lifetime ago. In answering it, humanity had not only saved themselves from future imperial aggression, they had changed the course of galactic history. As Alina looked out at the twinkling stars, she smiled. The universe was vast, full of wonders and dangers yet undiscovered. But whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, as allies, as friends, as a united galaxy. The future, bright with promise, beckoned, and humanity, along with their new allies, was ready to answer its call.